Director to the Prime Minister. Can the Prime Minister advise the House as to the importance of enterprise bargaining to Australia's economic strength in the 1990s? What are the government's intentions in this regard?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the government has been the only government which has changed the craft structure of Australian unionism, which has moved away from the centralisation of national wage fixation and moved to a system of wage flexibility on a change to the basis of union organisation at the industry and the company level. Now, Mr Speaker, yesterday Senator Cook
Order. The Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yesterday Senator Cook, in addressing the National Press Club, laid out the government's success in achieving the lowest level of industrial disputes since we began collecting statistics. He showed how a cooperative relationship in industry has helped to achieve an historic breakthrough in inflation, and he showed how our shift to enterprise bargaining is creating a new Australia at the workplace. Now, Mr Speaker, they're all the solid achievements, but after we saw at APPM, in stark contrast to the policies of the opposition. The opposition, of course, are now hopelessly tangled in their policy. The leader of the opposition's camp, the Hewson camp, wants to announce now what they see as a big bang in industry in terms of industrial reorganisation, and the member for Bennelong's camp, the Howard camp, want to conceal and disguise the real agenda. Now, Mr Speaker, on Business Sunday on the 1st of December 1991, the member for Bennelong had this to say about industrial relations. We'll be producing a bill well before the next election, and that is about as far as you can go as far as we're spelling out the detail. I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind how we intend to change the industrial relations system. And I'll be producing in our time a bill which will set out in detail all the changes we intend to make in the Industrial Relations Act. Then we had the leader of the opposition. You see, he always turns his back on the hard answers, Mr Speaker. He went on to say this. Are you reviewing your industrial relations? Question, answer, Dr Hewson. No, we're always working on it. We are encapsulating it in legislation, which will be there for people to see exactly what we mean. And he got asked the question, we are constantly reviewing it. You'll just have to wait to see what the legislation looks like. And then at the National Press Club on the 4th of March 1992, he said, I might say one other thing. We're going to be releasing a draft, hopefully most of it, all of the relevant legislation will need to implement our reform agenda. But yesterday, we see, and reported under the heading in the Australian, Libs stall on industrial bill, the opposition spokesman on industrial relations, Mr Howard, said yesterday he had not decided whether to release the bill before the election. Quote, I'm not making any promises about releasing a bill. In other words, promises, 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 but after APPM, and a little taste of your industrial relations reality, you're all backing off at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're all backing off now because you don't know what policy you should have. In the end, after now being in opposition for nine and a half years, nearly 9.5 years, you don't know what industrial relations policy to have. That's the pathetic position the opposition on the primary issue of industrial relation, wages and price control, prices and the inflation consequence of wages. The opposition does not. He's annoyed, and well he might be, Mr Speaker. He's so savage, he's mundering away, he's so annoyed about it. And good on you, be annoyed. Mr Speaker, the fact is, the leader of the opposition, is now no longer going to publish the bill, no longer going to publish legislation, no longer going to say where they stand on industrial relations, so the policy of letting federal awards expire, making it illegal for employees to negotiate together with employers, but only requiring an individual person to negotiate with an employer, which will of course turn the tables entirely on the employee in terms of industrial negotiation, watching federal awards expire and with it rates of pay, conditions of employment including holiday leave go, which have been fought for now for nearly a century and put into place. He thinks that that savage policy, which would see APPMs across the whole of Australia, which would destroy the inflation rate beyond that which the Governor of the Central Bank said yesterday would be destroyed by the GST, beyond all that, he thinks he can do that by the sleight of hand of now not producing legislation, having promised to produce it time after time after time. The fact is, Mr Speaker, on that side of the House they are in policy chaos. They don't know what, on the principal matter of industrial relations and wages. Look at the embarrassed laugh, you see. We all know, Mr Speaker, when you get an embarrassed little giggle over
House
there.
will come to
They're
order.
also embarrassed on the key point. If you can't run wages, you can't run Australia. On the key point, you don't know how to do it, and you're backing off at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Order.